the people. So they want to be first. Healthcare, education, welfare, higher living standards, shorter working week. Last month, the head of the TUC said we should have a 4-day working week by the end of the century. No, I don't agree with that. We should have a 4-day working week, a 6-hour working day, a 4-day working week now. And we should by the end of the century, we should have a 1-hour working week or a 2-hour working week. Because the technology is there, the science is there to provide for everybody with nanotechnology, with biotechnology. Did you know you could feed the entire world from the stem cell, from the feathers of one chicken, without killing any more chickens in the history of the world? You could just take the stem cell from the feather of a chicken, turn it into meat, grow it as culture, and serve it. You have to mash it up a little bit to create a certain tension. They already produce this. They already produce it. By next Christmas, it will be on the shops, in the shops. Beef, chicken, and so on. Made without any animal. Or better said, merely with a stem cell. They have technology now. Nanotechnology, which can be sent into the body, in the bloodstream, to attack cancer before it develops. We can have cure, we can grow human eyes, the same as your present eye, in a pig. And that eye can be grafted onto a human being when the eye degenerates. All the organs of the human body can be grown and can replace the existing organs. And therefore we live on the cusp of a scientific and technical revolution which can lay the foundation for democratic control and a society of peace, freedom and plenty in harmony with ecology, where the needs of the people are met by the scientific and technical developments of the past, and the labour of the present will merely be the mental labour that you engage in every day when thinking and acting just the same. The embryo of that is clear already. Because if you look, when you use your mobile phone, what do you think? How do you think Facebook makes their money? How do you think Google makes its money? Every time you pick up your phone and you enter something into it, what you enter belongs to them. And so all the interconnection between you and the activity you engage in on your phone, your computer, your iPad, all of that is the property of the other. They harvest your unpaid labour power and use it against you. But it has created companies whereby the principle which Marx proposed, from each according to their ability to each according to their needs, exists now. What used to be, it used to be necessary for you to go to a cinema to see a film. Now you just press a button, down it comes. It used to be necessary for you to pick up a phone and make a phone call. Now you make a phone call with an app, paying nothing for an IP to IP connection. Therefore what we're seeing is the emergence where human labour power has got such enormous potential that with one person's action you can multiply the benefit to hundreds or millions or billions of people. That is how the World Wide Web was. Tim Berners-Lee invented HTML code, which laid the foundation for the World Wide Web. He gave it away for free, and because he gave it away for free, and one person could build on the work of another person, and could go back and amend, adjust, and develop, that laid the basis for the integration of the entire planet. The communication systems all of you now have in your pocket. My friend, when I began to use the internet, I used to prophesy the internet will be in the pockets of most people on earth. And a lot of left-wing people turn around and say, no, the internet's only the bourgeoisie. It's only a few people, the middle class in England. Now, everybody in Britain is on the internet. Even my mother's on the internet. Hi, Mum. Even my dad's on the internet. Hi, Dad. Everybody's on the internet. So, in India and Pakistan, I assure you, I've been in Pakistan, everybody's on the internet in Pakistan. Everybody. I've been in India. In India, nearly everybody is on the internet. In China, there's more people on the internet than America and Europe put together. And that's supposed to be a dictatorship where there's no free information. More internet users at a more sophisticated level than in any other part of the world. They now use the internet now for everything. If you want to buy breakfast, like a bun for breakfast in Beijing, everybody pulls out their mobile phone. They go up to the guy, he's got a little market stall. He's making buns all day. How do they pay? They go like this. Beep. That's how the ordinary people buy from the street seller in Beijing. So therefore, the last shall be first and the first shall be last. What's happened is, what Marx, Engels, Lenin and Trotsky explained, is there is a process of called uneven. One part develops rapidly, another part less developed. So in Britain developed rapidly, India went backwards. But there is also combined development. So there's uneven processes around the world economically. But then, when a poor country wants to adopt a new technology, or a new method of organization, or a new method of thinking, or a new medicine, a new field of science, a new field of culture, they look the whole world and they take from the most advanced in the whole world. And therefore, there is also combined development. That means that people, like when the settlers from Europe arrived in the United States of America, or in America, they conquered America. They shot the North American Indians, the indigenous people. But it didn't take 2,000 years of technical development for the North American Indians, the natives, to drop the bow and arrow and pick up the gun. It took only a matter of 10 or 15 years for the gun to be adopted as the standard weapon of the North American Indians. In Vietnam, when the Americans went to Vietnam and bombed the Vietnamese, they dropped Agent Orange on them. They shot them, they killed them. Initially, the Vietnamese fought them with bamboo and spears. But afterwards, they developed their own technology, and they responded to the Americans, and they captured the weapons from the Americans and turned them against them. And so, combined development is the automatic corollary of uneven development. And therefore, what we're seeing in the world today is this process. Some countries, like America, the richest country in the world, should be the most advanced, psychologically, technically, culturally. But you've got President Trump. You'd be hard pushed to search the whole world, even the poorest countries on earth, and find a more stupid president. I mean, stupid in the way he behaves, in the arguments he makes, the way he goes on Twitter and talks nonsense, in incoherent gibberish. And yet, America voted him in. On the other side, a backward country, economically backward I mean, might well elect someone who's tremendously progressive. And therefore we have the integration of the world, the intercommunication in the world, which means that the most advanced ideas and the most backward ideas are confronting each other on a daily basis. And we see that here in Hyde Park. We have some of the most stupid reactionaries, like Tommy Robinson and his fan base, this idiot by the name of Prophet Tan, coming down to Speaker's Corner, proclaiming he's got some prophecy, and all he does is attack the Muslims, shout out nigger, and things like this, and think, oh, I'm doing great, because I can provoke people. On the other side, you have some people advocate Islamic fundamentalism, Sharia law for everybody. And of course, Tommy Robinson will stand there and say, look, these people are going to take over Britain. Last week I looked on the YouTube video of this, and then someone goes on there and says, don't this commie realise Sharia law comes to Britain, then he'll be the first one to have his head cut off. Well, the truth of the matter is, Sharia law is not coming to Britain. It's not going to conquer Britain. Absolute and stupid nonsense. And yet these people, they will come down here, the right-wing reactionaries, and they'll say, You listen to what they say. They come round Speaker's Corner and you hear one time after another the same words repeated. Muslim grooming gangs, Muslim grooming gangs. You're defending Muslim grooming gangs. Then you ask them, what do you mean Muslim grooming? 90% Muslim grooming gangs. In fact, the study that Tommy Robinson cites and that all his goons repeat, 90%, was published by one organisation. William. The year before another study was done. The year before another study was done. They found the opposite. Grooming gangs were predominantly white. Now, there are certain communities which have certain problems, yes. But let's say the Catholic Church. I watched the programme about the Boston Globe. Anybody see that on the internet, on the BBC? The investigation into the Catholic Church. Grooming gangs in the Catholic Church. Much bigger than the Rochdale gangs that we're talking about. And so they selectively choose something to emphasise in order to whip up hatred against the Muslims. That's their objective, because the soundbite sounds good. And because there are stupid people, like the man who was here a few minutes ago, who wants to blame the foreigner for taking the council flat, rather than blaming the government for not building council flats. There have been no council flats built by most councils in Britain for decades. And in fact, there is no homelessness problem in Britain. Not an objective one. Because if you look, every single time you see a homeless person, keep your eyes peeled and look around you. For every homeless person, you'll find 6 or 7 empty buildings. For every homeless person. When you look around Britain, look around London alone, according to a right-wing Conservative Party think tank called Policy Exchange. Their website is policyexchange.co.uk. On their website, they have a report, and they show that in London alone, there is enough empty commercial property to provide homes, 400,000 new homes in the empty commercial property or in those spaces. 700 football pitches of empty property in London alone. So there is no real objective reason for homelessness. Sorry? Yes, it's corruption. It's because what the gentleman here said. The gentleman here asked me at the beginning about the difference between the law and the interests of the poor, the rights of the poor. The reason why there are so many homeless people is because it helps the estate agents. It helps keep the workers on their toes. Because if the worker in London, earning £30,000 a year in an office, working 9 or 10 hours a day to stay ahead so they don't get sacked, eating their lunch at their computer to show how keen they are, and yet when they go home, if they want to rent a studio flat anywhere in 1 and 2 zone of central of London, they're going to have to pay £1,500 of their monthly income in rent. That's without council tax. That's without electricity. That's without gas. That's without travel card. That's without 17 pints on a Friday night. And therefore, how can people live? The consequence of that is that the homeless person acts as a whip. Every time you see a homeless person in the corner of your eye, you think, thank God I'm paying my rent. Thank God I've got a job and can pay my rent. Otherwise I might be like that. The consequence of that is that homeless people, if they're not paid by the estate agents, they might as well be. Because they're the encouragement that drives people to carry on doing the work to pay the landlord. That's why I agree 100% with the argument of Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party that we must cap the rents, we must impose controls on the rents, we must impose taxes on second homes, and we must requisition the empty properties and make them used for the people. And in relation to the banking system, I say this. Last week, a scandal was revealed at the Danske Bank. Now the British are complaining no end about Russians killing people in England. And yet, Russia, the Russian oligarchs as a friend of mine called them, the Russian oligarchs, they're invited here. You come here, £500,000, £1 million, passport, permission to remain indefinitely. And yet, the British and the Russians were found to be the main conduits for money, 200 billion criminal money passing through the Danske Bank, based in, I believe, Estonia. I think 14,000 Russian accounts, a lot of them British accounts, based or connected to the Danske Bank. Yes, a Danish bank. Because it's in Estonia, and the British encourage, if you like, the Russians to settle here and put part of their money inside the Danske Bank in Estonia. And they also have the City of London, 400 banks, a city-state, 1 mile from here, special laws, special regulations, special rules, a special city-state like Singapore, Washington DC and the Vatican. That's what the City of London is. The City of London is not ruled by the elected representatives of the people. The City of London is ruled by 400 banks. Those banks are the main money laundering centres of the entire planet. And Britain is the #1 money laundering facilitator in the entire world. That's why Boris Johnson and Theresa May, they say, well, what we'll do is we'll provide services. What do they mean by services? They mean we'll let criminal money from everywhere in the world flood through Britain. And any trouble anywhere in the world, they can put their money in England. That's the game they play at. When the Egyptian ruler, Mubarak, stole 1.4 thousand million pounds from the Egyptian people, when his government was entering crisis, the British had been allies of Mubarak for decades, as they are now allies of Saudi Arabia. They're the ones behind Bin Laden, they're the ones behind IS, they're the ones behind the violence from the Islamic fundamentalists across the world, Saudi Arabia. And yet Britain is in bed with Saudi Arabia. Their main close ally in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia. And so when they talk about when Mubarak was about to fall, they said, we'll seize his assets in Britain. But they didn't give it to the Egyptian people. They kept them in Britain. When we nationalised part of RBS, we nationalised part of Barclays. Is it Barclays? No. Nationalised part of Lloyd. Did the policies change? 10 years on from the financial collapse, in which Britain initiated the programme to save the big banks, billions and trillions, by pumping money from you, from your children and your grandchildren. They stole that money from the future to give to the banks to protect the private shareholders. They nationalised the debts of those banks, nationalised them, and then made you pay for those debts. That's why wages in Britain are £700 on average below what they were 10 years ago. £700. We pay for their crisis. That is why, the guy turns around, communist conspirators. That's why we won the Labour Party leadership. Because people knew, give the chance. It's like Archimedes said, back in ancient Greek times. He said, give me a fulcrum, give me a lever, give me a place to stand, and I will move the universe. So it was with Corbyn. We had a chance. The old machine was in control. But we had a vote where every person who was a member and everybody who said, I'm a supporter, and paid some money, could vote. Once that happened, once democracy was allowed to control who is the leader of the Labour Party, suddenly the tide shifted. I remember being here the day Corbyn stood. I said, Corbyn will stand for him. I remember you saying, what are you talking about? I said, Corbyn will stand behind him and we may win. In fact, there's a man here who took a bet with me. £20, 20 to 1. I got £400 out of it. One from the betting office, another from him.
That's capitalism.
Capitalism.
You did 400 quid using capitalism.
It was a bet. It was a bet about Jeremy Corbyn. That's the sort of capitalism we want.
Yeah, you like that capitalism? Okay, just check.
Now.
Can you be
Now. Well, betting office on the private deal. No, I didn't. Sorry? Well, sometimes it's luck and chance. Sometimes you have insider knowledge. In that particular case, I had insider knowledge.